Hello and welcome. This is Adam Sarnoso with Socal Tech Academy. Today we're going to go over a quick Python tutorial on using MATLAB to graph data. So it's kind of like data science, and it will enable you to graphically display your data, reaching a greater audience that wouldn't know how to read just a graph or just a table of raw data. And it'll allow them to understand it more quickly because most people know how to read a graph. So that's the goal, graph data. In this case, we're going to use random data using matplotlib, lib's built-in function for plotting. And steps, you'll see right here, I created 3 functions, one for each step. Step 1, gather data. In our case, we're going to generate it because it's going to be random. But if you have like a CSV file, JSON file, or you're pulling from like an API, that would be where you would do it, right there. After that, you're going to be graphing a single line plot, so just a simple line graph. And after that, you do multi-line graphs, so multiple lines on the same chart. And that's more useful when you're comparing different types of, similar things over the same time period or similar time periods. So let's get started. Right now, if I run this, Python, nothing should happen, and nothing does happen. So I have the already completed file right here, and this file is going to be uploaded to nofile.io, and that's going to be left in the description so you can download that. And it will be referencing it back and forth. So the first thing we want to do is create data. So data equals gather data, and the way we're going to write gather data is the first number is the amount of arrays you want back. The second number is the length of each array. The third number is the lower bound of the random numbers they're generating, and the fourth number or parameter is the number for the upper bound. So it's going to generate one array of length 10 with no numbers below 0 and no numbers above 100. And if you change that to 2, you get 2 arrays of length 10 with the same bounds. So if you save this, nothing should happen, because we haven't implemented gather data yet. So let's implement gather data. To do that, we'll set what's it called, data again. And so these data are not the same. They have their own separate scope within their own function. So data equals an empty list, and then for every number in nums, data.append. So for every array they want, we'll add an empty array to our, or every list, we'll add an empty list to our empty list. And for every L and length, and then for every number of that, we're going to create a random number, data sub L sub n. So we're adding to the same array dot append, I think it's random, and then the 0 lower bound, I think it's double check rand int. So rand int, oh, that's what we're importing. Rand int. So random int between our lower bound and upper bound, and that should complete our gather data function. Make that a little bit cleaner. And if we test that out in data, we should get one array of length 10 with numbers between 0 and 100. Global name nums is not defined. Num. And object is not, so we're going to create a range here. So range 0, like the error message said, we're trying to iterate over a number, and a number is an iterable, meaning there's only one thing there, just a number. Now range will create a list between 0 and that number. So we have basically saying for every number between 0 and num, create a list. Before we're saying for every number between in 4, and you can't really do for every number in 4 because there's no numbers in 4. Save this, print data. Let's see, what did we do wrong here? I'm not returning anything. That makes sense. So then once you're done with that, you want to return the data. Now we have a list of length 10 with numbers between 0 and 100. So if I do this again, we get different numbers, and they're all going to be within 0 and 100. Let's bump this up to 4. So you get 4 lists back, all of length 10. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So our gather data function worked. Let's now let's create our first graph. So line graph, we're gonna give it right now no x data, and y data will give it data sub 0. So our first array that's returned to us, we're going to pass that in to line graph. I'm going to give it a title. I named it Bitcoin prices over time. And to make that more realistic, let's go 6,500 to 7,500. Save that. If you run this, nothing should happen. It's because line graph isn't implemented yet, so let's implement it. This is where we're actually going to be calling our plot function. So plt dot plot, and we're going to plot our y, and we could give it a color. Let's say a color red. And this should be the most basic form of using plot. So you can give it 2 arrays here, so your x and y. But if you don't give it an x, it'll automatically generate an x list using range, where it's creating numbers incremented by 1. So for example, over here, we'd have our y values right here. Our x values just be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That way it creates an incremental number line on the x-axis. So if we run this, we should get a very basic graph. Yeah. There's no title, no axis labels, but it is interactive somewhat. You could zoom in. I don't know how to zoom out. It's back button. Now you can save it as a PNG if you want to create like a PDF of your examples. But like I said, right here, I guess it starts at 0, then it increments to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1 for every number, the length of array, you pass it in for y-axis. So because we have 9 data points, we created 9 x-axis data points. So let's add some more information. plt.title, we'll give it the title, which is the parameter we pass in. plt.x label, and we'll tell the x label to be days. plt.y label, and that's going to be United States dollars. Save that and run it again. It should look a lot nicer now. We have a title, our y-axis and x-axis labels are there, and you see the graph change because we have random data, and every time we run this, it should be a different graph. So that's the simple line graph. Let's try this again for the multi-line graph. For this, I'm going to generate new data by reassigning data. Could change that to 1 because we're only going to do 1. 10, and we'll go 200 to 300. Multi-line graph. We'll do this similar thing to this one, give an empty list for our X data. Our Y data will be data, and our title will be secondary crypto prices. So this is a graph comparing different cryptocurrency prices, more of the secondary ones like Ethereum and that type of stuff. I'm going to raise that to 300 to 500. I haven't checked up on the prices lately. And to do this, it's going to be similar to this. So I'm just going to copy and paste that. But we're also going to need to do a loop. So we have to loop through every data list. So for every list in Y lists, we're going to do plt.plot at list. We don't need to give it color. It'll give it random colors automatically. Titles will be the title give it in. And because we're only going to give it one list again, it'll auto-generate our X list for us. Let's save that and let's test it. Here's our first one and our second graph. And we have our new title. We have the same axis labels. And you can see that there's 4 different lines here. You don't know which one to which yet, so let's add a legend, my bad. I think it's just legend. And then you have an array of titles. Then you have a location. And location, how do we do location? Upper left. So let's call it 1, 2, 3, 4 because we have 4 data sets. You could do that programmatically, creating your own little array or your own little list based on how many they pass in, which would be the right way of doing this. I'll show you guys how to do that real quick. Names equals an empty list. Names dot append. Let's go. And I'll say convert to string names dot length. Nope. Length of names plus 1. Right here we'll give it names. Because I know it takes some strings, I'm not sure if it'll auto translate those numbers to strings for us, so I did it right there. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. First one is blue. So the blue line could be whatever that data represents. Now you have a little legend in there. If you wanted to, you could also modify this. So X is more of a list of tuples, where the first data set or set of data is the name of that line. So if you have like Ethereum, could be there. I'll show you guys real quick. So for example, Ethereum, and then your data. And this would all be within one big list. Comma. Whatever else is there. Bitcoin, that's like pennies. And it goes on and on. Depending how much data you have. And that way you have the name right here, and you could add that instead of the length. You just add the first part of your tuple. But there's your quick tutorial on graphing in Python using matplotlib and their built-in plotting function. There's a lot of other different types of graphs you can do, but this is the most basic. So thank you. We do have a course on Python for beginners, a course for Python in terms of data science. Check out Socal Tech Academy in the link in the description. And if you want this code, it's also in the description. Thank you.